Hello everyone, I am Rhonda and welcome to my channel and welcome to a new video. I am so excited to do today's video because today is the day I am filming my prompt jar picks, my TBR for the month of November. And I did one of these last month and I had such a good time doing it. I love watching these videos and I thought it would be fun to try one out last month. And I'm so glad that I did because I was able to pick out a wide variety of books. I picked 7 books and almost every one of them was from a different genre. So I read so many different kinds of books in October and I'm so glad that I did this just because I didn't feel like I got stuck in a reading slump. I think this really helped me out. So today we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna pick 6 prompts out of this TBR cauldron. It's the same thing from last month. I need to get a new jar for it. We're going to pick 6 prompts from here, and then I'm going to pick a book based off what the prompt says. And then as a bonus, I have another jar, and inside this jar are all the books that I own that I have not read. My entire physical TBR is in here. So I'm going to pick one of these books blindly from this jar, and I have to read that book too. So we're doing 6 prompts, 1 blind book, for a total of 7 books. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Let's shake up the cauldron and let's pick the very first book that I'm gonna read in the month of November. It says, author's first name starts with the same letter as my first name. Well, my name is Rhonda, so the first letter of my name starts with an R. So I need to find a author whose first letter of their first name is an R as well. So, let's see. This might take a little while, and this is actually not all of my physical TBR. These are just kind of the books that I want to read. Well, the first book I found is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Her name's Rebecca, and it starts with an R. And this is a YA fantasy. I think there's a little bit of a historical fiction to it just because it's set in a different time period, and it has to do with typing letters to each other. So I definitely want to read this. I think this would be a good book for the fall, but I do want to see what else we have. There's more back here. I just realized I have a lot of books where the first name of the author is Kate. Ooh. Another book is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and I've been wanting to read this. I wanted to read it in October and I never got around to it, so this is another one to choose from. Okay, that's all that I have. So the 2 books I have to choose from is an adult fantasy called One Dark Window, and this has to do with someone who has monsters in their head or something. And like I said, I wanted to read it in October. I never got around to it. And the other one is Divine Rivals. This is a really tough decision because I really want to read both of these. I've heard great things, and they're both duologies. I think I'm going to go with Divine Rivals just because it is a YA fantasy and those are usually easier for me to read. The little blurb says, when 2 young rival journalists find love through a magical connection, they must face the depth of hell and a war between gods to seal their fate forever. So I think I'm going to go with this one. Again, I think it's just going to be easier to read, and that is going to be my very first book for the month of November. The second prompt is, it says, a grumpy sunshine trope. Okay, so probably a romance, and I have several of those to choose from. Okay, so let me go through my romances and see which one is a grumpy sunshine. I have a lot of fall romances that I really wanted to try to read this fall, and I haven't really gotten to most of them. So that is what I'm going to focus on, and I need my glasses. Okay, so this is one, Can't Help Falling by Courtney Walsh. And I think this is a clean romance. There's not a lot of bad language, and I think this would be a good one. It has a grumpy sunshine. It says he's got a temper, he's moody, and he has a history of being misunderstood and making big mistakes. So it starts off, Owen Larrabee is not my soulmate. He wasn't when I confessed my love to him on his wedding day. Why would you do that? And he wasn't, and he isn't now. I should probably say that I wasn't the bride when that happened. I don't have the best timing. He's got a temper, he's moody, and he has a history of being misunderstood and making big mistakes. I, on the other hand, make pumpkin cupcakes, spend my Friday nights curled up with a beloved romance novel, and long to be kissed in the rain. Owen is my best friend's older off-limits brother. So it's a brother's best friend. And he's the only boy I ever thought I loved, which is laughable because he only ever saw me as a kid sister's dorky friend. But that was long ago, and I'm over him mostly. So this sounds like it's going, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It sounds like it is a small town romance. It is a brother's best friend, and it is a grumpy sunshine. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just do this one, just because I specifically bought this to read in the fall, and this is definitely set in the fall with the fall leaves. And I've been wanting to read some Courtney Walsh books just because I do enjoy closed door romances, and on her Instagram she says there's no bad language and there's no crazy conflict. Book 2 is Can't Help Falling by Courtney Walsh. Let's choose prompt number 3. Okay, we have there's a fireplace right here, and I think there's a bird in there. Read a contemporary romance. Perfect. Well, I already just picked a contemporary romance, so let's go back on this other side and let's pick another one. I have several I want to read. I've been wanting to read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me because it is a football romance and we're in the middle of football season. I also want to read November 9 by Colleen Hoover just because it's November. And then let's pick one more. Nice Work, Nora November. Actually, I'm not sure if this is really a contemporary romance. I think this is just women's fiction. I'm not positive. But let's choose between Colleen Hoover's November 9th and Mariana Zapata, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. So all I know about this one is it is about a girl who is an assistant to a professional football player, and she ends up quitting just because she finds it a thankless job and it's supposed to be temporary. And the football player, Aiden Graves, needs her back for some reason. I don't know if they need a fake date, but I do like that it is a football book. I don't read a lot of sports romances, so this is an option. And then the other one, November 9th by Colleen Hoover. I don't remember what this one is about. It says Fallon meets Ben, an aspiring novelist, the day before her scheduled cross-country move. Their untimely attraction leads them to spend Fallon's last day in LA together, and her eventful life becomes a creative inspiration Ben has always sought for his novel. Over time, and amidst the various relationships and tribulations of their own separate lives, they continue to meet the same day every year. Oh, I love that. Until one day, Fallon becomes unsure if Ben has been telling her the truth or fabricating a perfect reality for the sake of the ultimate plot twist. Can Ben's relationship with Fallon and simultaneously his novel be considered a love story if it ends in heartbreak? I've only read one other Colleen Hoover book, and that was It Ends With Us, and that was such a tearjerker. I do want to read, gosh, I want to read both of these. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with November 9th, just because, number one, the title, number two, it is a little bit of a shorter book, and I need to read books that are a little bit shorter in November. So we're going to go with this one. November 9th by Colleen Hoover is my third book. Prompt number 4 is, it says red cover. So that just means I need to read a book that has a red cover. Well, we have Night Circus. And no, that's not red, that's black. The only book that I have is Kiss of Deception, which is by the same author who wrote Prince of Thieves. I think that's the name of it. And I have that to read, and one of you have actually said I need to read that because it's so good. It's one of your favorite books. But I've been putting off reading it because I read somewhere that you need to read this series first. And this is the first book. It's black and red. It's not full on red. So here's one option. I also have Dark Matter. This one is black and red. This is a science fiction book, and I have read something by him before. I read his Wayward Pines series, and I really did enjoy it. I think that series as a whole is a 3-star read. I don't know what this is about. It just says, are you happy with your life? Those are the last words Jason Dessen hears before the kidnapper knocks him unconscious, before he awakens to find himself trapped to a gurney or strapped to a gurney surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits. Before a man he's never met smiles down at him and says, welcome back, my friend. In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife. His son was never born. And Jason is not an ordinary college professor, but a celebrated genius who has achieved something remarkable, something impossible. Is it this life or the other that's the dream? And even if the home he remembers is real, how will Jason make it back to the family he loves? This sounds really interesting. I already have a fantasy on there, and this one is pretty thick, and I really don't want to start a new series right now. So I'm going to go with Dark Matter by Blake Crouch for book number 4. I've heard great things about this book. People really love it. And like I said, I have read him before and do enjoy his books. They're pretty fast paced. So book number 4. All right, moving on to book number 5. We have, these little papers are so small. I need to do bigger papers. I was laughing because it says find a book with a pink cover. So we have a reddish, well, it's black and red. The back is red. And then we have a pink cover. Okay, first book is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, and I really do not want to read this month. I did a softie enough just because I was not loving it. I have read The Love Hypothesis by the same author, and I really enjoyed it, and this one was just not hitting the mark. I'm on page 104, and there's no romance in here. I was just getting really bored with it. That's the only book. Well, this one is kind of pinkish. It's Fall Into Temptation by Lucy Score, but it goes from pink to orange. I don't know if you would consider that pink though. Sadly, the only book that I have that's pink on this cart is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, and I think it's time that I actually finish this book. If you've read this book, let me know what you thought about it. Again, this was slow moving. I wasn't really loving the main character, and I was getting really bored with it just because there's no romance so far, and I'm like a third of the way through. But let's go ahead and do Love on the Brain and hopefully finish it before the end of the year. Okay, book number 6, and the final prompt that I'm choosing for November is, please be a good one, please be a good one. All right, author's last name starts with the same letter as my last name. My last name is Holden, and it starts with an H. So I need to find an author whose last name starts with an H. Let's see. Well, another book by Ali Hazelwood. I don't think I'm going to go with that one just because I think one Ali Hazelwood book is enough. We have You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Holden. I've heard great things about this one. I think this is a second chance love romance, and a lot of booktubers I follow really enjoy it. This is another contemporary romance, and I already have 3, but with November being so busy, I think this might be a good month to just hit up some fall romances just because they're easier to read and I can fly through them pretty quickly. So this is an option. We have another Colleen Hoover book, but I don't want to read another Colleen Hoover book. Darcy Coates. We have Grady Hendrix, which is an option. Okay, so I either have some Colleen Hoover books. I have Layla and Verity I can read. I can read some Grady Hendrix, or I can read Sarah Holden. And I think I'm going to go with this one because, as I mentioned, I do read romances very quickly. I think they're very easy to get through, and I've heard really good things about this. I don't know if it's a fall book, but I'm going to read it in the fall. But it says, when your nemesis also happens to be your fiance, happily ever after becomes a lot more complicated in this wickedly funny lovers to enemies to lovers romantic comedy debut. Oh, this is her debut novel. Awesome. So we're going to do this for my 6th book. It's You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Holden. With those 6 books picked from my TBR prompt jar, it's time for me to pick a random book from my physical TBR. So I'm begging you to please be a good book. Let's see what it says. I'm seeing Colleen Hoover's name. Okay, so I have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, which is fine. I really didn't want to read another Colleen Hoover this month, but we're going to do it. I did read It Ends With Us, and I really enjoyed that book. I saw the movie. I love the movie. And this is just a continuation of that story. I actually really I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. It was very much an emotional read for me, and I got this because I wanted to continue the story to see what happens. I've heard that this one was just okay. It wasn't needed, but it's a good companion novel to It Ends With Us. So we're going to read this one too. So I have 2 Colleen Hoover books. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. The first book I have is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Next is Can't Help Falling by Courtney Walsh. And I think this is part of a sweater weather series that different authors have written. And I really can't wait to read this one. Then we have November 9 by Colleen Hoover. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. And then finally, It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. All right, so these are the 7 books that I picked for the month of November. If you've read any of these, please let me know what you thought about them. I know some of you have read Divine Rivals, and I know that a couple of you commented on how good it was. Also, let me know which books you plan to read in the month of November. What are you most looking forward to? And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hit the like button below, as well as leave a comment on these books. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.